What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show, if you will. I apologize, I'm not in my current setting, my regular setting. I'm actually away from home right now, so can't really talk about the Raptors in the regular spot that you guys are used to me talking about the Raptors. Apologies if, the lighting or anything isn't whatever, but that might not matter right now for you guys who just witnessed the Toronto Raptors lose to the two, now three, and whatever Detroit Pistons, snapping Detroit's 28 game losing streak thanks to your Toronto Raptors. It was, for all intents and purposes, expected. In my opinion, I saw this coming for weeks. The Raptors, one, on the second night of a back to back, two, obviously just made that big trade. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later. Three, were on the road, and they've been terrible on the road. They're 4-10 coming into this game on the road this season. And four, the Raptors just find themselves down in games far too often. I believe it's 12 of their last 14 games, they've been down 10 plus points. And tonight was the same thing against the Pistons team that was hungry. Having watched Detroit over the last, 4 or 5 games of their losing streak, they've come out really, really aggressive. They've obviously are fighting. They're passionately trying to win these games in order to stop their own history. And so the Raptors came into this one somewhat unprepared. Even the broadcast mentioned that they came into Detroit at 3 a.m. last night. Obviously, the trade is a huge factor there, too, and them missing three of their guys, three rotation pieces for the most part this season, even though Malachi and Precious had sort of fallen out of the rotation as of late. OG was a massive part of this team and probably would have helped tonight against a Pistons offense that honestly looked pretty good in respect to the Raptors and their defense. And we'll probably talk about that in a bit. But I really want to just say congratulations to the Pistons. No fan base should ever have to endure a 28 game losing streak. That should never happen. Like, it's just an unacceptable level of abysmalness from a professional basketball organization. So, I mean, congratulations. That's incredible. That monkey is off the shoulders, if you will. You can kind of forget about that losing streak and get back to developing these players. Hopefully, this sparks a change in Detroit's trajectory because it was really, really bleak, man. And I know there are some funny memes and whatnot, but just from a basketball perspective, watching guys like Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey and even Asar Thompson have to go through the motions of figuring out how they're going to win a single basketball game, that's exhausting. And I'm happy they did it. Not necessarily happy that they did it against the Toronto Raptors, but again, it felt expected. Kobe dropped his 81 points against the Raptors. LeBronto happened against the Raptors. The Raptors have found themselves on the opposite side of some of these historical moments, but also they've been on the winning side of some historical moments as well. We'll probably talk about OG and the OG Anunoby shot against the Celtics. Kawhi shot, obviously a massive part of this too. So it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. You get into these points, you get into these moments, and hey, sometimes you come out as the loser. As far as the game itself, I mentioned that the Pistons came out really hot. They did a great job offensively. I mean, they were shooting the lights out for the entire game, but they finished shooting 50% from the field. They finished shooting 43% from three, and they did whatever they wanted to on the defensive end. And yes, missing OG tonight really hurt because Cade Cunningham absolutely carved up the Raptors in the pick and rolls. Cade had 30 and 12. He shot 45% from the field. I thought he did a great job of kind of creating, looking for guys like Jalen Duren, as a vertical lob threat, looking for guys like Jaden Ivey in the 45 cuts. Cade was awesome in this game. And just as an aside, I'm over the Cade Cunningham conversation. The dude was always going to be good. The dude is going to be a stud. This team, this iteration, this roster isn't really helping accentuate his strengths. So he's never really been given a fair shot. Hopefully, eventually, the Pistons figure it out and do give him a fair shot. But the fact that he's putting up 30 and 12, he's been awesome over the last 12 or 15 games since Bojan Bogdanovic has came back. He's looked great. Spacing seems like it helps, and we'll get into that for the Raptors as well. But yeah, the Pistons did a great job offensively all game. The Raptors had no solutions to stop them on defense. And I think missing OG was a big part of that. I think missing Precious Achiuwa, just like another big body rebounder, was a big part of that as well. And ultimately, the Raptors looked tired. They also looked undermanned, and their bench unit really struggled because of that, because they couldn't go to their regular rotations. So the Raptors were sort of playing from behind even more than they usually have so far this season, which is hard to kind of. You want to be disappointed in the Raptors losing to the Pistons, but at the same time, you understand they're undermanned tonight. They're obviously going through a massive change, and long term, a loss to the Pistons right now doesn't matter much with the whatever new iteration of this team will be in the next couple of months. In general, I thought in terms of what the Raptors did right, Pascal Siakam was absolutely phenomenal. He scored 20 points in that third quarter, 20 of the Raptors, 28 points in the third quarter to get them back into this game. Dennis Schroder was phenomenal in this game as well. He finished with 30 points and 9 assists. Gary Trent Jr. knocked down shots. He's continuing to get into rhythm, and I think the more he's paired alongside Pascal or Scottie, he's going to look better just because of the amount of attention those guys draw, and it helps, create wide open shots for him. So he was exceptional in this game. And Pascal, 35 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists on 14 of 24 shooting. He was just exceptional in this game. And Scottie struggled throughout. He didn't have the best offensive game, but I thought in the fourth quarter when they needed him, he did turn up in a major way. He finished with 22 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. And I thought was just exceptional throughout, to be honest with you. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, the Raptors still lost. They still struggled in this game mightily on defense. And looking forward into what this team will be when you throw in Immanuel Quickley and when you throw in RJ Barrett. The starting lineup, as I'm assuming it, is going to be Jakob Poeltl, Pascal Siakam, Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Immanuel Quickley. And you have Dennis Schroder and Gary Trent Jr. off of the bench. Some people might suggest putting Gary Trent Jr. in with the starting lineup and bringing RJ off of the bench. I can actually hear that argument. I would probably say that's for the best in terms of adding even more roster balance, giving more shooting to your starting lineup with Quickley, with GTJ, but you're going to be pretty small defensively with that as well. And while RJ isn't the best defender, he's at least bigger than Gary Trent Jr., and that's going to provide you with a little bit more assurance. And as we talk about the defense, that's going to be my biggest question mark with this team moving forward since they've traded their best defender in OG. How are you going to maximize this team's defensive identity? How are you going to maximize what this team can look like defensively? Now, to be fair, Quickley is a really good two-way player. He's actually a really good defender too, and can be a great point of attack defender. Between him and Schroder, I think they actually have a good nucleus to have a feisty guard there all the time that's just going to be hounding ball handlers. But that second player between Gary, between RJ, whoever they slot in there, even Scottie, it's going to be a question to see how that looks and how that kind of creates, any sort of imbalance. Because I think the Raptors addressed a lot of offensive needs with this Quickley and Barrett trade, but they also lost a lot on defense with trading OG and with trading Precious, who's one of their better defenders. Got to see what happens here in terms of other trades that they'll end up doing, whether it'll be a Pascal trade. There was that report that Adrian Wojnarowski had that said that, they might be looking into trading him again. So who knows? For the Quickley side of things, you guys will see a lot of content about Immanuel Quickley over the next week from me. I am very excited to watch how this guy turns into a star in Toronto. And to be honest with you, I'm pretty confident that he will turn into a star. What level of a star? I have no idea. Will he become a complimentary star? Will he become an all-star? Will he end up becoming, an all-NBA type player? I really don't know, but the sky is the limit for this type of guard who is a great pull-up shooter, great shooter off of the catch, guy who can create for his own, a great shot maker, a great shot creator for himself. He needs to improve in the playmaking department, but he's also a great defender for his position as well. So the Raptors found this two-way guard that meshes really well with what Scottie Barnes brings as well. And I think that will work in tandem very well long-term. It just makes sense. The fit makes a lot of sense. As for RJ Barrett, his fit is a little bit more wonky. And what's that going to look like ultimately, and how they pair him in? How invested are they, as him being a part of their long-term future? He's only 23 years old, so he can tap into some of his extra potential. Maybe being at home, maybe getting a new change of scenery that's not New York helps him tap into that extra potential that he has. But these are things we'll have to wait and see and transpire. And ultimately, while the loss to the Pistons is in the back of our minds of what happened today, the major news coming out of today is the fact that the Raptors traded OG Anunoby, and in return they got Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. What that looks like, I guess we will see on Monday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. It is going to be a very, very fun game. From the reports, reportedly, those two are going to play. So we'll see how it'll look. We'll see how the rotations look. We'll see how the starting lineups are. And I will be here to talk about it. Maybe not in this background, maybe not with this lighting, but we will be here to talk about it. So thank you very much for tapping in. If you're interested in listening to the Objective Basketball Podcast, we talk about the NBA. And yeah, thank you very much. Take care.